Tech giant Meta is ending its third-party fact-checking program on all of its platforms, including Facebook and Instagram. The social media company is moving to what they describe as a community notes model instead.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
Well, for now, the changes are being rolled out in the U.S. so that, as they say, improvements can be made before expanding to other countries. But not all social media is limited by geographical borders. So how does this change the platform for users? We're joined this morning by Brett Carraway. He's the Associate Professor of Media Economics at the University of Toronto. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So we went onto Meta's website, and part of their announcement says this. They're going to focus their enforcement on illegal and high-severity violations. What does that mean?
So usually that has to do with things like hate speech or child trafficking or pornography or cyberbullying, things like that. It's sort of at a higher level where it's not just about partisan politics, but something that has to do with community safety standards.
Okay. And then another part of this announcement from their website says they're going to take a, quote, more personalized approach to political content. What does that look like?
I think that looks like crowdsourcing to me. So I think what they're trying to do is move away from a centralized way of doing content moderation, meaning that they have been relying on third-party fact checkers since the debacle back in 2016 when there was alleged Russian interference in the U.S. election. So now the fact checking and content moderation will be done by you and I as Facebook users.
To moderate their content, Meta has also said they're going to move their fact checkers out of California and over to Texas. They said this is to cut down, their words, on bias. The platform is going to move from California to Texas, and then they're going to pivot to community notes, similar to how if people use X, it looks like this. So rather than them fact checking, readers can flag whether or not they see this as correct or incorrect information. How is this going to change the user experience?
Well, the community notes program will be run essentially by volunteer users. So it's like a certain class of users who volunteer to do it. It looks for a consensus that's built in terms of diversity of voice rather than majority. So a user who's volunteering this program can make a note and say, this looks strange to me, or try and provide a little bit of extra context for the post. But then other users from across the political spectrum have to sign off on that note, and then it would show up for the larger user base.
So the interesting thing about that is it can be used to make true things untrue and also untrue things true at the discretion of other users. Do I have that right?
Yeah, so there's a couple of concerns around crowdsourcing in this sense. Sometimes just because a larger number of people believe something to be true doesn't mean it's actually true. So large numbers of uninformed people can override expert opinion. The other problem with this is that sometimes it's hard to find consensus across the political spectrum, especially if it's a very divisive topic. So sometimes the notes won't appear on the most important pieces of information, which turn out to be misinformation or disinformation.
How much of this change has to do with the fact that big tech, we know, has been lobbying for less government intervention for years now, and now we have a new administration coming in?
Yeah, I think this does have to do with the change in the prevailing political headwinds. The dream of the internet from the 1990s on has been something like a cyber utopia where the whole thing functions without interference from state actors. And so this is an attempt to sort of do content moderation, automate it through crowdsourcing, which in effect is a way of insulating Meta from political criticism, right? Because they're not the ones doing the moderation anymore. So no one can complain that they're too liberal or too conservative. Now they can simply point to the user base and say, this is our user base doing this, not us.
Yeah, and President-elect Trump has also gone on Fox News saying he approves of these changes and said Meta has come a long way. He agrees with this change. Listen, these third-party checkers were brought in, you mentioned 2015. They were brought in around a decade ago to protect against foreign interference, among other things. We are heading into a new administration in the U.S. Canada is about to have a federal election. What do these changes do to the credibility of information on these platforms?
I'm worried that we are going to be suffering from a very serious signal-to-noise ratio. I mean, we already have that in our social media systems, and I'm worried this will make it worse. It's a period of time also, not only are the political headwinds changing, but also generative AI is taking a more prominent position in terms of content creation, and that will make things even more confusing. And I have significant concerns that the public is simply not up to the task of discerning misinformation, disinformation from more accurate information. And now is not the time to be backing away from content moderation.
Brett Carraway, Associate Professor of Media Economics at the University of Toronto. Good to talk to you this morning. Thanks.
My pleasure.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.